Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we are continuing our study of the prophet Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, and we are doing chapter 13a. There's a lot in chapter 13. Today will be a relatively short podcast, but we'll cover one specific episode and lesson. We'll do from verses 1 through 11 today. For those that have been studying together with me, we completed in chapter 12 with the promise that God gave that through his prophet, that the nations that tortured and made Israel suffer will be brought to justice one day. They will have the opportunity to join the Jewish people by learning about God, by humbling themselves before God, and by accepting upon themselves to live a moral and just life. And if they don't, they will ultimately be erased and destroyed. We also learned of the plot against Yirmiyahu, the plot against Jeremiah to kill him, and that was 2 chapters ago, which prompted a very powerful discussion between Yirmiyahu and God about the topic of justice. Now, we begin an unusual episode, and I've seen many explanations of this episode among the commentaries, but I wasn't satisfied with really any of them. Feel free to study through the commentaries on your own and try to understand this episode on your own, of course. But after working through it a few times, or many times, I think I came to an understanding that makes a lot of sense and has a lot of meaning to me. So I'm going to teach these next 11 verses using my own understanding, and I hope you like it. If not, I'd be more than happy to hear your comments. And you're, of course, welcome to interpret these verses however you would like. So here we have an episode. We have the prophet speaking, Yirmiyahu, and I'm reading verse 1 in chapter 13. Ko amar Adonai Eli. So God said to me. God gave me an instruction and told me to do the following. Haloch v'kanisa lecha ezor pishtim. Go and purchase for yourself a belt made of linen. Azor is often translated as a loincloth, which gives you the idea immediately in the modern mind of an undergarment worn that covers a person's private area. However, we know that in the times of the Bible, in the times of Jeremiah, in general, people did not wear undergarments like that. People did wear a robe, and as we know from the commandments that were given to the priests in the temple, the belt that they wore was meant to divide between their hearts and their genitalia, and also the belts were a place where they would strap their not necessarily the priests, but in general their weapons. So a belt was a sign of strength. One of the reasons why this chapter is so hard to understand is because I think that often it is mistranslated. I think Azor Pishtim, which is often translated as a loincloth, is completely wrong. And Azor Pishtim is referring to a belt of flax. The reason why this Azor Pishtim is important, I would like to reference the word Azor, which in the Hebrew letters Aleph, Zayin, Resh, is the root of the word Azor, is virtually always meant to designate girding oneself for in an atmosphere of strength, to convey I'm tightening up my belt and getting ready to fight, or I'm strong. I'll just give some examples. We see in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 27, Ein oyef ein koshel bo. He's talking about the strength of the Assyrian army that were coming to attack the people of Israel. Lo yanum v'lo yishon. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't rest. He's strong. V'lo niftach ezor chalatzov. He doesn't even open his belt. His belt is tight and strong. Ezor, the same word. We see it in another example in Ezekiel 23, verse 15, where we see again a description of the Chaldeans, the power of the army, and he says, "Chagorei ezor b'mosnehem." They are girded with belts around their waists, and he describes how powerful the army is. We also see it in Samuel, in the book of Samuel 1, that's Shmuel Aleph, this chapter 2, verse 4, we see where he's describing where the prayers of Hannah, who is talking about the greatness of God. He says, Keshet Giborim Chatim, that in front of God the bows of the mighty ones are broken, v'nichshalim azru chayil, and those that are faltering become girded with strength when they have faith in God. And we see this repeatedly. I gave several examples, but over and over and over again, Azor is a symbol of strength. This is extremely important, I believe, to understanding what Yirmiyahu 13 with this chapter is talking about. Knisalach Azor Pishtim means go get yourself a flax. It was deliberately chosen to be flax because flax is something that, if it's a natural fiber, if you leave it alone and you don't take care of it, it will rot. But if you take care of it, it can be a symbol of strength, of power. So v'samto al masnecha, I want you to put it around your waist, and people will look at you, they'll see the belt around your waist. So you see this belt is a symbol of strength. However, God says, uvamayim lo tiviehu, do not wash it. Let it get dirty, let it rot. Washing it would take out the mold and the rot and the dirt and the grease and whatever grime would come to this belt. And by not washing it, God is telling him specifically, don't take care of it. And we'll see what the importance of this metaphor is shortly. This is verse 2. And I went ahead and I purchased for myself a belt just like God told me to, and I placed it around my waist. Again, I'm going to emphasize that the translation of Azar as a loincloth, I do believe is completely incorrect. Although many of the translators do translate it that way, and I'm going to be translating it as a belt. Now I'm walking around with this belt, I'm allowing it to get dirty, and I'm not taking care of it, and God then tells me another time as follows, and he says as follows, go ahead and take that belt, asher kanita, the one that you purchased, asher al masnecha, the one which is right now upon your waist. V'kum, and get up, and lech pirata, go to Pirat. I'm going to tell you in a moment where this place Pirat is. V'tamnehu sham b'nekik hasola, and I want you to put it in a crack or in a cleft in the side of a cliff or in the side of a rock that is in Pirat. Many translators translate Pirat as the Euphrates River, because we know from other places in the Torah that the Nahar Pirat, the river Pirat, is the river Euphrates. However, it is extremely difficult to imagine that Jeremiah was asked to walk from where he lived on Atot, which is near Jerusalem, to the Euphrates River, which would have been an exceedingly long and arduous journey. Not an impossible one, but a highly unlikely one. Much, much, much more likely, and there's commentaries, there's volumes written on why Jeremiah was asked to take such a long and arduous journey to such a faraway place. However, it's much simpler, and almost certainly Pirat here does not mean the river Euphrates, but it means the Nahal, the Wadi Pirat, which is nowadays called in Arabic Wadi Kelt, which is in Judea, which is right near Jerusalem, even walking distance within less than a day's time, and it would have been a ordinary place for God to ask Jeremiah to go. Those that have been to Israel and have been to that area, these beautiful hikes that one can go on in the Wadi Kelt area, which is in Hebrew known as the Nahal Pirat, and there's pools of natural pools of spring water and a running stream in the desert. There's beautiful archaeological sites there. So that is the Nachal Perat. So almost certainly this does not refer to the Euphrates, but it refers to what we would call today in Arabic Wadi Kelt, or in Hebrew Nachal Perat. V'kum lech Perata. So God tells him to go there. V'tomneu sham b'nekik hasala. And I want you to hide it there in the cleft of a rock. If you've been to the area, there's cliffs. Just put it away aside in a place where it will just sit and do nothing. So then, I went at Meneu Bifrat, and I went and I hid it, and in the Pirat area, Kasher Tziva Adonai Oti, just like God had commanded me. Vayihimi Ketz Yamim Rabim, and then it was after a long period of time. I don't know exactly what long means, but long enough for the belt that was already full of grime and mold, deliberately so, to rot and turn into useless nothing. Vayomer Adonai Eli, and God said to me, Kum lech Perata, now get up and go back to Perat, v'kach misham et ha'izor, and take from there the belt, asher tziviticha letamno sham, that I commanded you to bury it there. Or to tamno doesn't necessarily, could mean bury, but to hide there, or to tuck away there. Va'ilech Perata, this is verse 7. So I went ahead, says the prophet. I went to Perat v'echbar, and I dug a little because there was some dirt on it. Va'akachet ha'izor, and then I took out the belt min hamakom, from the place asher timantiv shama, the place where I had hidden it. V'hinei, and behold, what did I see? Nishchat ha'izor, it had become destroyed, it had rotted away. Lo yitzlach lakol, it was completely useless as a belt. So now the metaphor is going to start to come to obvious. It's going to be obvious what God is trying to teach here. That belt was a strength. Remember what the belt means. The belt means, but what did he do? He ignored it. He didn't take care of it. He allowed it to get dirty. He let it just go along its own way. He buried it in the ground. He just left it there to rot. He didn't do anything active to destroy it. He just left it alone and didn't nurture it, didn't wash it, didn't take care of it, didn't clean it, didn't put it away in the proper place, in the proper way. And then what did it do? It rotted and turned into nothing. And therefore, what God is about to tell us is that this is a metaphor for the people of Israel. They were once great. They were once incredibly close to God. They were given the Torah at Sinai. They came and they conquered the land of Israel, and they built the temple, and they were once high and holy and great and full of justifiable pride. But if they allow themselves to go, and I'm going to use this term, which we'll see in 2 verses, b'sharirut libam, meaning in just the pathways of their hearts, just allowed their hearts to flow and just do whatever they want without doing anything to maintain the greatness that they had. It takes work to maintain it. What Jeremiah is about to teach us, and what God is about to teach us through his prophet, is the idea that you can't just let things stay stagnant. It either goes up or it goes down. If you leave it alone, it will rot. If you take care of it, then it will get better and better and be a source of strength. And let's read it in God's own words now. From verse 8, Vayihi dvar Adonai Eli lemar, and these were the words of God to me. Ko amar Adonai. This is what God says, and this is what you should tell the people. Kocha ashchis, in the same way that the once proud belt was destroyed and rotten, in the same way I shall destroy and will become rotten at Gaon Yehuda, the greatness and the pride of the people of Judah, at Gaon Yerushalayim, and the greatness and pride of the capital of Judah, Jerusalem, Harav, which is so great, and now that pride is so high. This is what's going to happen to it. Ha'ama hazeh hara, this nation that is now bad. Hame'anim, they refuse lishma at devarai, they refuse to listen to my words. What he's saying is here, God is not, at this point, not criticizing their active evil. He's criticizing their refusal to do what it is that I'm telling them. Their passive evil, their passive decision to do nothing, and rather, ha'holchim b'shrirut libam, they decided to just go along with the ways of their heart, however they decided to go. And what did that do? Where did that lead them? Inevitably, when you don't work and you don't listen and you don't do what you're supposed to, inevitably you end up just falling farther down into the wrong direction. And they went after other gods, to to worship them, and to bow down to them, because that's so much easier. All I need to do is bring a sacrifice and bow. These idols don't make any moral demands of me. They don't demand honesty. They don't demand hard work. They don't demand being charitable towards my neighbors. All they need is me to bow to them. And it will be exactly like this belt, asher lo yitzlach lakol, which is useless. It's useless for nothing. The point of having the greatness that the Jewish people had was in order to teach the world that what we need is more than just ritual and sacrifice to some idol that's meaningless, but to teach the world that there's a God who demands of us moral behavior, God demands of us ethical behavior, God demands of us to be better people. He wants us to work. If you're not going to do that, then you're just going to rot away and be useless, just like the belt. The belt is only good when you take care of it. This is verse 11. Just like that azar attaches itself el masneha ish to the waist of a man, when he attaches the belt and he locks it into position and tight around his waist, that's a sign of strength. That's the same way that I was with the Jewish people back then. Kain hidvakti elai, the same way the Jewish people attached themselves to me, al kol beit Yisrael, to the entire house of Israel, even the northern kingdom before they were destroyed. V'yad kol beit Yehuda, and all the people of Judah, Om Adonai, so says God. That's how it was. What were they? Lihiyot li l'am, they were for me like a nation, l'shem, with a great reputation, u'letehila, and for praise. Everyone understood that was a wonderful, wonderful people, a nation, u'letiferet, and for glory. Right, that's what they were. Just like that belt was a belt of strength when it was wrapped around and tied around my waist, a person's waist. The same way, the people were a sign of strength and greatness and glory and pride. However, velo shameu, they did not listen. They did not do what they needed to do to maintain that, and therefore they rotted away, just like the belt rotted away. Thank you so much for studying chapter 13a together. Looking forward to studying the rest of chapter 13 with you.